Hey everybody, welcome. Well, I am excited to talk about my new show today, Cashing In on Creativity, the podcast. And we've got lots of people, just for those of you who may not be listening today, or you might be listening at another time, just to let you know that this show, we're not only taping the podcast, but we're also live on Facebook at the same time. So you may hear me do shout outs to people, or maybe I won't be answering any questions, I might at the end, but just to let people know that if you hear other things, it's because I'm actually live videotaping this at the same time that we're doing the podcast. So listen, just let me tell you a little bit about the podcast. I just wanted to introduce what it's all about. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the vision for the show. I'm going to talk about why I started it. And I'm going to tell you who it's for and why you might be interested. So we've got some people already on the line. Hey, Carmen, glad to see you're on the line. Shout out to Carmen there. And guess what? So we are going to just, let's jump into with a title. Why did I call it Cashing In on Creativity podcast? First of all, it's very different when you're building a business based on your talents than when you're building it if you are, you have a product that someone's given you, or you have a service and you're doing it specifically on that. When you're using your talent, it's a lot more personal. Just ask any of my artist friends, right? When you guys are doing something and somebody doesn't like it or they want changes, they're taken away from your creative vision. And so I thought, oh, you know what? This is a way for people to understand that their creativity is important, and there's ways of using it to actually improve your cash flow. I get a lot of questions on business, and I'm going to talk about those. And just to let you know, I do have a special offer for you guys at the end of the show. So if you're willing to stay around for the whole piece here, there's a special offer that you can get. If you're listening to it later on, you'll still be able to get it until the end of February. I'll talk about that in a minute. But, I've created a lot of products. I'm one of those guys that are like a content guy. I'm always creating stuff. I love creating stuff, and I know I've got a lot of friends that are artists, authors, stuff like that, and you do the same. And you might be thinking, I've got all this stuff sitting around. I know my wife tells me that all the time. She goes, you got all this stuff sitting around? When are we going to make some money off it? And so I just wanted to let you know about that. Hey, Suzanne, Marion, how you doing? Bernard, good to see you guys. Listen, so here's where we're going with this podcast, right? It's all about taking your talents and making money. Now, the podcast, the part of it that I started with was in 2011. I wrote a book called How to Start an Artistic Business in 12 Easy Steps. It's still available. I'm in the midst of updating that for 2017, so we're going to have a new version come out in the new year. But that was the basics of the book. I get a lot of questions from people. How do I do this? How do I do that? And because I do everything from web design to an artist, and I've got books out, I get a lot of questions, and so I thought, this is the best way to do this. So let's talk about the show. The show's going to be a mix of interviews, right? So I've got some great interviews coming up. Look next week. I can't tell you that now, because next week I'm going to give you a Facebook Live and tell you exactly when it's going to be. So if you're hearing this show the day that I'm actually taping it, which is at the end of November, look for early December. I'm going to do a Facebook Live on the people I'm going to have on the show. And I just did a great interview with a well-known artist that I know you guys are going to love. So it's going to be a mix of interviews with creative people, artists, authors, musicians, anybody that's actually got their talent. And I'm looking for people who have made money from it. They don't necessarily have to be full-time, but you know what? This show is for us to, how do we market? How do we do things better? And so that's where we're going to go with this. So I've got musicians who are trying to sell their albums. I've got, comic book artists that might be doing, selling their comics and stuff like that. So we're going to have that. In addition to the interviews, there's going to be 2 shows a month, which are going to be topics where I might talk about how to improve your social media, how to market your business, how to, get your name out there, maybe how to set up your website so it's proper for you. All things that I do and get questions for on a regular basis. So I think it's going to be great for you. Now, why did I start a podcast? I know there's a million business podcasts, right? But here's the thing. A lot of the podcasts, and I listen to podcasts every day, a lot of the podcasts are people that are millionaires. You ever try to relate to someone who's a millionaire and they said, oh yeah, just do this, just do that, and it's too far out for most of us, okay? So what I found is that when I follow those people who are very successful, have done a great job on podcasts or selling their books or whatever, when you try to do that as a single person, as an artist just starting out, it is overwhelming. And you know what? You end up not doing anything. And I found there was nowhere in between. There's either these super successful people or there's me, just to put it that way. So I thought, you know what, why not have a show? I'm at a certain level. I'm certainly not rich, but there's a lot of people who are just going, what do I start with? What do I do next? So I thought this show is going to be helpful for you. Now, I have for those of you who know me, I have that secret thing I've always wanted to do. I was a drummer in high school. I have always wanted to be a musician. I can't play a lick. I can't play drums, but I haven't played in like 40 years. So I am going to feature some local bands that I know, and we'll have what we call a tune of the week. Now, I do this on my other podcast, which I'll talk about in a minute. And this is a way for me to showcase some of the local talent that I have, or friends that are starting bands. It's a way to help them sell some albums. I'll have stuff on the websites. I don't get any money from them. I'm not here to create money from other people's talent. But if I can help them out, and at the same time, I get to play DJ for one song. So you're going to hear some music on this. Not a lot, just one song per episode, maybe two if I'm actually having the band on. But it's going to be a great way to do that. So Sarah Ann, thanks for joining in. That's great. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I see some great comments there from Suzanne and Carmen. Appreciate that. That's awesome. So who's this show for? Let me just tell you who this show is for. If you're an artist, tons of artist friends, right? Got all of my caricature artist friends. I've got a lot of you who are not necessarily caricature artists, but you do visual arts. Maybe you're doing landscape paintings. Maybe you're trying to get into galleries, that kind of thing. This show is for you. You know, if you're a visual artist and you could do I don't know much about performance art, but if you're doing performance art or you're a musician, that's where the interviews come in. I may not have the answers. I've never tried to market myself as a band, but I have lots of band friends that they market themselves. So hopefully through the interviews, you're going to get those topics and stuff that you want to do. What I'd like you guys to do while you're listening to these Facebook Lives, put down topics you might want to hear, something you're struggling with. You may have already done this if you saw the Facebook Live last week, but just do that, and then I'll search out those kind of people or find that information and have it on the show, and that's how we're going to make this. This show is for you. You know, I already got another podcast. If I'm just looking for stuff to do, I don't need to do a podcast. I got a million things to do, but I like helping people, and I want this show to be for you. This show is also going to be for authors. Right? So, you know what? I've written a few books, and I found a lot of the people that ask me questions about how do you write a book, or what do you do? What do you put in a book? Are people that they have a book, they have the idea, but they're not sure, how do I go about it? And a lot of it is organization. You know, they think they got to be in a river, in a cabin, in the woods, and they got to write, and they got to take their job and stop and do that. And that's not really what we're trying to do. You could actually do a lot more just by writing a page a day or a paragraph a day. So I've written books that way. I know lots of authors and artists, and we're going to have them come in as well. So hopefully the artists and the authors. Now, is this the only people that might be interested? No. Anybody who's creative might enjoy this, and anybody who's an entrepreneur. You could have, I don't know, a massage business. Sure. Give me a massage and I'll figure out how to do that. No. If you can have a massage business, and if you're looking, how do I get the name out for my massage business or something like that? Or I've started some other business, a consulting business based on my experience. How do I get that out there? So that's some of the things that we're going to talk about on the show, and hopefully you'll get ideas from other people. Hey, this is what they tried. This is what they tried. You know, I've got a newsletter list. Some of you might be on it, and you know, people are going, why would I start a newsletter? Every time I see people start a newsletter, they stop 3 months later because they don't get anything. But I get business out of my newsletter all the time. So why is it working? And it's not that I have these high numbers, but I have an engaging audience there. So that's the important thing there. So why am I here to help you? Why Bruce? I know there's a lot of... I'm watching these comments from you guys. Why Bruce is a big... Carmen, do not answer. If you're going why Bruce, here's the reason. A, I like to help people. B, we've been in business for 10 years, and I think we've done pretty good. We've still got a roof over our head, and we've got food on the table, as you can tell. I've been an artist, you know, so I do my art professionally. I actually do caricatures. I'm not doing gallery stuff, but I have done shows, stuff like that. So I think I can offer you some tips there. As for being an author, I've got 5 books out right now. A couple of them are in the transportation industry, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute, but they're all on leadership and business. So I've got a couple books out there. I've got a couple cartooning books out. And I get a lot of people who just... I'm quick with ideas. So when they say, hey, how do I do this? And my wife will tell you this. She'll say, you know what? He gets verbal diarrhea. Just come up to me with a beer on the beach. If any of you see me in Barbados, come up to me with a beer on the beach and go, Bruce, how do I start my business? And I'll go on for probably about 3 hours. So I thought if I could do that on the beach, I probably should do it in a podcast where you can go back and listen to it, right? So that's where we're going to go with that. So I've got a friend who actually calls me his thought bubble. That's a little scary, but we go meet for breakfast every time he needs a new idea. So I get a lot of people asking me for ideas. I do workshops. I do classes. So I know how to put stuff together. Hopefully people will understand it. Hopefully you're understanding this podcast. So I've been doing it for a long time. So I think that I've got something to start with. Okay, I don't have all the answers. I'm telling you that right up front. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a millionaire. If you're looking to be a millionaire, there's other podcasts out for that. But I think I can help a lot of you that are just trying to make a good living, enjoying doing what you do. So that's what we're going to do. Now, just to get a little bit about my background, how did I get to here? Let's see. I dropped out of high school at 17. That's a fun way to do it, right? Hey, Rebecca, how you doing? I dropped out of high school at 17. Okay, I fell into the moving industry. My dad said, just get a job. So I went trucking. Drove transport trucks for 25 years. Okay, so 25 years of that. When I left that, I was a supervisor at a chemical company, and I decided to go out on my own and start an art business. So I was told, don't get into the trucking industry, and I did. When I decided to quit my job, I was told, do not quit your job and start an art business because you're going to live in the street. You're starving artists out there. So that was 10 years ago. Sure glad I didn't listen to them. We're actually beating our income that we had at that job. So thank you there. And I believe that people can do it. You can do it. It doesn't matter how much schooling you've had. It doesn't matter how much breaks you've had. I just work really hard, and I know a lot of you work really hard, and a lot of you have super talent. I know I've seen you, or I know you, or you'll show me if I haven't seen you already. So I know you guys can do a lot of this. So it's really about getting on and just moving forward with your talent. And a lot of it's just hard work. A lot of it's trying. I fail at every single thing I do. Every single thing. In fact, I'm going to fail this afternoon. I got to go and color a picture this afternoon, and I'm going to fail at it. I'm going to make the wrong mark, or I'm going to do something. But you know what? It will finish, and that's one more project next to the next one where I go, that's what I learned. So this is the first show. Look for this show coming out January 1st. And here's the little tip. For those of you that stuck around, I'm glad you stayed with me. Here's what I want you to do. You can go to cashinginonCreativityPodcast.com. That's going to be the URL for the show. Right now it's pointing to my website. It will in the next few days, or probably next week or so, be pointing to the actual website with the podcast where it's going to be hosted. But anyway, it doesn't matter when you go to that website. You're going to see Cashing In on Creativity ebook. Okay, it looks similar, but it's got a bit of a different picture. This ebook is a book that has a ton of ideas from how I got work out of my comic book, how I started my sticker program for the trucking industry, where I've made money, it's not always about the product. So go there, you can get it for free. All you got to do is go there, sign up for my newsletter, and you will get it for free. That's all you got to do. I'm not asking, it's no money, anything like that. And this podcast is going to come out every Thursday morning starting January 1st. So every Thursday at 5 a.m., you can get this on iTunes. It'll be on SoundCloud, and I hope to get it on Stitcher and everything else. And you can go on there and get it downloaded. If you've got an iPhone, it comes right into that podcast app. If you don't listen to podcasts, you might want to try it because they're great things to listen to and learn from. Each show I'm aiming to be about half an hour, but I do have a couple guests who like to talk, and I know the one I taped the other day went an hour. So anyway, it doesn't have to be half an hour, but it will be. If any of you are artists and you are doing this where you're actually making money from your art, please feel free to contact me. I will be looking for guests from March on, and if you've got talent, I'd be happy to talk to you because that's how we all learn. It's not just about me, it's about all of you. I just want to say thank you to all you that have come online. Heather, thank you for joining. Dawn, great to see you. Mary, awesome. Geraldine, awesome. Justin, I haven't seen you in a while, man. We got to get together. Anyway, listen, it's great to see you guys. Thanks for coming on. Suzanne, Carmen, you guys were all great for coming on. Feel free to share this. And like I say, go to cashinginOnCreativityPodcast.com and you can get that free ebook it's just a little 9-page ebook. It's a checklist in there. It'll give you some ideas how to get started. If you're trying to get started from your talent, I hope you'll do that. I will show you in another podcast, probably next week. I'll show you all my equipment in the little, you may wonder why I'm standing here only neck high. That's because I actually podcast in my closet. And I'll be coming out of the closet later on this afternoon. But I actually have a closet all set up with my equipment and everything, and it's not soundproof, but it's kind of finished that way. So that's why I haven't moved it. But I will show probably next week when I do the Facebook Live. I'll show you a little bit about my equipment and give you a little insight into what we need for podcasting. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks for sharing. Have a great afternoon, and we will catch you later.